May I introduce the cast and screenwriter of I Still See You. We're going to start with Bella Thorne. We also have Richard Harmon, Sara Thompson, and screenwriter Jason Fuchs. How are you doing?
Hi, good, how are you?
I'm doing good. Making sure everyone's comfortable.
Very.
So let me start with my, give me 1 second.
Did you like the movie?
I did. Oh.
Yeah! Hey.
I did, and you know what's interesting is that sometimes, like, this is coming out in theaters and on demand at the same time, and I really wasn't sure what to expect, and I didn't know Jason had written it, and so I'm glad I did. Like, I was watching, I'm like, I really enjoyed it, and I give some credit to Jason for delivering a screenplay.
You can give a lot of credit to this. Thank you so much.
So jumping on in, most people who are going to be watching the Q&A online will not have seen the movie. So how have you guys been describing the film to people?
I give that one to Richard every time.
She does. We've been doing this all day. How would I describe it? Without giving anything away, it's, it's... Because here's the thing, we're selling it as like a horror movie. I think there's so much more to it than that. It's kind of like dealing with this kind of very basic human element, which is just loss and grief. And every single character in that movie, if you think about it, has been dealing with it in some way, shape, or form. Everyone lost someone, whether it was, as close as our characters was with our fathers, or just someone they knew. So it's kind of, I've been kind of bringing that up a lot more, and kind of just making sure people see it's a lot more than just a horror movie. Which it definitely will give you some, will give you some spookiness in there, though. I don't know why she's been giving me that question all day. That's the best I can do.
Jason, this is based on a book. But talk a little bit about, I know you've been working on this project for a while. How did you get involved with it? How did you find the book? What made you want to adapt this and be a part of this?
I got involved with the project in 2011. I just moved to Los Angeles, and Brad Kessel, who's sitting right over there. Hey, Brad.
Yeah,
Brad, round of applause. Brad, who's a major factor in bringing this to the screen, came to me with the book. It hadn't even been published at that point. Daniel Waters' original manuscript, Break My Heart 1,000 Times. And I read it and loved it. I thought it was a really original world. It was a big idea, the idea that humans coexist in a world with ghosts. And it felt to me like something extra. It had this real emotional core. At the moment in my life, I just lost my aunt shortly before that. So I related to the idea of someone who was going through a loss and trying to understand how to let go and what that process was. And it felt like it was a unique thing to meld the sort of genre, world-building components of something like this with something very universal and relatable. So I said, yes, please.
Wow, you do so much better of a job describing it.
Why did you not take it from the beginning?
Seriously.
For the actors, talk a little bit about the casting process. For each of you, do you still get nervous walking in the room auditioning, or do you feel like you sort of have figured it out by now?
I'll start because we're going down the line here, but I definitely feel very nervous every time I audition. My goodness, the auditioning world, it's an uncomfortable place to be in, being in the scene, being in the elements, being in costume to character to wardrobe to like everything in between, and so much as far as the set itself. It plays such a big element in what plays into your character that the auditioning process, behind a blank screen, sitting in a chair, doing whatever the fuck you're doing in that scene. It's an action movie. You're in a burning car, burning alive, and you're sitting in this plain seat, acting in front of like 6-7 people that are just staring at you. And like, I don't know. I've always felt in auditioning like the nerves are running, the stomach is nauseous. Like I am definitely nervous every single time going into
Eminem song.
Nice. But for this, the process was definitely different. I got lucky enough to work with Scott Spear, who directed Midnight Sun, and on that project, he started describing "I Still See You" to me. and Ronnie and what her vibe was, and slowly going through it with me. And then we are lucky enough that after working with me, he still wanted to do I Still See You with me. So yeah.
For you guys.
Yeah, I agree. I'm usually very nervous in there. This one was different though, because it was, I remember it vividly. Like I'd just woken up at like 8 in the morning. My manager called and said, you need to put something on tape right now, which means I didn't actually have to go into the room with any of the directors or anybody else, but really myself. So I learned it in 20 minutes. I walked in and I did it, never expecting to hear back, and I was just tired and wanted to go back to bed. And then 2 days later, I booked it. I couldn't believe it. Like, I was shocked. But maybe that worked. Like, it was the least nervous you could possibly be. Like, I just went in and was like, let's do it. And then that was it. And I never expected you guys to call me. And it happened. And it was just such a great experience.
This one in particular was one of the weirdest auditions initially, because initially I auditioned for Claire White. So I walked into the room, choked myself to death, and then walked out. And I was like, okay, like, I'll do that, sure. And then they called me back for Janine, which was great, but I got into a car accident on the way. It was terrible. Later found out that Scott Spear, our director, also got into a car accident that day on the way to the same audition. But yeah, I don't like auditions, you know, nobody does.
Back to the...
I was actually wondering if
Those were different accidents, right?
You are the same
No
accident.
comment, no comment.
that was so what I was wanting to know, if it was an accident with you and the director. And I'm
No.
That's how Scott casts. You get a very unique process. A lot of directors put an actress on hold, he puts them in traction. He's gone directly into her, and God bless him for doing it, because you got very lucky.
One of the things I like about this movie is the way it opens. You generally, I'm going to say a minor spoiler, but it's the very beginning of the movie, so I don't feel bad. But it's like it opens with you at a dinner table, and you think you're having like this family meeting, and then you realize your dad isn't there, you know. And it's just it's a cool, unique way of starting the film. I don't know of another film that I've seen that starts in this way. Talk a little bit about was that the way the book was? Was this like a film kind of thing? And
No, the book starts a little bit differently. The book has the virtue of being a novel, so Daniel's able to explain everything to the audience in a more frontal way. He sort of takes you on a tour immediately. With the film, it's a different challenge. It's a big world. There are a lot of rules. There's a lot of things you need to process, to understand, and ideally you want to do it quickly and in a character-driven way. And so it felt like, well, that's a really cool way into the movie where we're going to meet our lead character and sort of experience the world through her eyes, through what it is to wake up every morning in that world with your dad, who you've lost, appearing and then disappearing. And sort of the reveal of him not being there felt like a nifty way to give an audience a surprise early in the film and launch you into the adventure.
Yeah, actually the beginning of the movie has changed quite drastically in every edit, I'd like to say, of the film. It started in quite a few different ways, but I'm glad that this is the way that it started, because it is so shocking, and even in Ronnie herself, it's like every morning you forget that they're going to disappear within seconds. Every morning you feel like maybe they actually are there, and until they're not. And I like starting off it on that way, because it sets the base really nice for the film, which is this whole feeling of loss.
And there's also like the beginning sets up a Groundhog Day-esque kind of thing where you're experiencing all these different people, you know, the same thing every day. Anyway, it's well done. How is it that the outsider always has a fucking cool car in the movies?
Tell me about it. I have no idea. That was like the best car I've ever gotten to drive in my life. But in the middle of Winnipeg, in the winter, with the tires were like balls. That thing got no tread anywhere. It was really hard to drive.
The fact that all of our actors survived that film and was really a testament to how tough they are. We had Richard driving through.
And he
really
drove every
weather.
time. Richard always drove, and he did such a great job at it every single time.
Shucks.
Yeah,
But I agree with you. Like, I don't know how this guy got that car, but maybe it was his dad's. That's what I'm going with.
I like that answer.
There you
I
go.
was going to ask this.
That's a character choice. It's official now.
But you know what I mean. Every movie, the outsider or like one of the main people always drives the coolest car. It's
I agree.
I think that's part of the fun though of a movie like this is it takes a lot of the tropes you expect in a film, the outsider and sort of the cool car and the ghost, and it sort of turns them on their head a bit, which I think ideally by the time you get to the end of this film, you're truly surprised by where the movie's going without giving away too much. But so each of the, not so much the car, but I think each of the choices with using characters you feel like archetypes that you've maybe seen versions of was purposeful. It was trying to find a way to take characters we've seen and put a new spin on them and hopefully rearrange them in the context of this world that Daniel Waters created that felt really fresh and original.
Talk a little bit about from inception, from when you first got on it to what people are seeing in the finished film, how much changed along the way with the script.
When you write a perfect first draft, it's screenwriting is very much a collaborative process. So quite a bit changed. It went through changes when Scott Spear, director, came on board. It had terrific input. It really helped shape the version of the film you saw tonight. It changed again when you start to cast, and we were lucky enough to somehow convince Bella to play Ronnie. Suddenly you're going, oh wow, now she's really coming alive, and you're rewriting based on Bella and trying to make it feel organic to her. And the same is true with the rest of our cast, and so it's a constantly evolving thing. But I couldn't be happier with the way it ultimately all turned out.
For each of you, talk a little bit about working with Scott. Maybe you can share like one story of working with him. Something cool.
Oh goodness. I worked with Scott on Midnight Sun and this one, and now we're looking to do our third movie together, what genre that is. So, I don't know. I'd like to say we got lucky with Scott. He listens to his actors, he's smart, he actually listens to them when they speak, and really gives it his full throttle, and I really appreciate that. And he's also really specific and empathetic when it comes to stunts and that kind of stuff, and I do all my own stunts, and I was lucky enough for him to let me do it. He used to like to say that he had a 9-1 just on speed dial, always pressed in every time he called action, because he was always worried that every time he called cut, he would have to press the last one, because shit was always getting so crazy. I don't know about a specific story, just that I love working with him, and man, when you take a director that can, not that we necessarily worked with a small budget on this, but on Midnight Sun we did, and he has a knack for making no money look like so much fucking money when it comes on the screen. You would think we have a $20 million budget, and he is great at that. And I can really appreciate that because I like to study directing and writing, and that's not always something you can make come to life when it's not actually there. So I fuck with him so hard.
For you guys?
It was an absolute treat. To go further with what Bella was saying, I think when I came on it, I don't know if I've ever met a director before that had such a vision kind of in mind for this film. And when I signed on to it, I signed on fairly late into the process of the film before it was being made. And he just dove right in and kind of sent me everything he had. Like, this is what I'm thinking. Do you have any ideas? And like you were saying, he's incredibly open as far as if you have any ideas for the character and what you want to do, and if his vision differed from yours, you could actually sit down and talk about it and try to find a nice kind of like middle balance there. Yeah, again, stories, because it's just all so like it's so crazy to even think about it now.
I think you hit it. Just cool experience working with him.
Super cool. Could you put super cool down?
Yes, I think you said it.
Super cool.
Yes.
Super cool experience. Thank you.
Yeah, so it was super cool.
We're gonna need to change that right now.
Yeah, he really lets you play. Like, that was, I think, the most fun for me, especially when you're building a relationship like a childhood best friend. We would do word for word, we would do exactly what we were supposed to do, and then he's like, hey, this one's for you, just do whatever, have fun with it. And, Bella and I actually got to bond during filming, and we were like, okay, let's like make this funny. Like, you're just like riffing off each other, and he allowed us to create a real authentic best friend relationship, just, by letting us have fun.
cool Scott Spear moment. I don't know, I like when he crashed his car into Sarah on her way to the audition. I thought that was pretty unconventional.
I enjoyed that too.
Scott, yeah, he tried to kill you, that was cool.
That was fun.
Scott is very collaborative. And as a writer, it's, film, they say, is a filmmaker's medium, and it's true, and I feel very lucky to be a part of the movie, and lucky to be on set, lucky to meet actors who are involved in it, which is not always the case when you're a screenwriter. And so Scott's inclusivity, the fact he let me be a part of this adventure and let me be a part of the on-set experience was really kind of him, and a wonderful, wonderful experience.
You mentioned you shot it in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
It looked, when I watched it, I'm like, oh, this was a cold shoot. And I can see the nods. Was there a day that you thought you were getting frostbite?
Definitely the ghost town sequence, all of it. That was so cold.
That was just like all night. It was like that street was like a
below
wind.
20, and then add windstorm fans that are so heavy that create a snow blizzard while there's actually a snow blizzard still going on. And it is like, it's so fucking cold. It is like us going through that scene where we have to actually travel through and try and walk through all the rooms without bursting them is like, I remember thinking, I thought I was starting to get such early onset arthritis all over my bones because everything hurt so bad. I couldn't open the doors at all because it was so cold. My wrist was locking up and I couldn't open it. So then I literally had people opening doors for me in a ridiculous way because I couldn't physically open them myself. And I remember thinking, how am I gonna do all these stunts with this cold? My goodness, like my bones. I'm only 20 and yet I feel like I'm in my mid-60s. Like I can't do anything right now. This is so painful. And so definitely for me, I was like, oh, just fuck me up with the colds. Just fuck me up.
It was cold.
No, wait. Was it super cold?
I wouldn't go that far. No, I would go that far. You know it's bad when you're going to your director in between takes sometimes and being like, is my face moving at all? Like I'm trying to emote for you, but I can't tell if anything's actually shifting in my
so
face.
true because you can't move
Yes.
your muscles as well. Like especially, okay, so we had a lot of action scenes before what you've witnessed has been cut out. A good amount of our action sequences. So in these action sequences that me and Richard are going ham, right? Like we can barely grab onto each other because it's just so frozen. And it was so difficult for me to slide over that car and do that like cool fun move.
Oh yeah.
It took such a long time to film and yet didn't even make it in the fucking movie.
All my scenes were in set.
He's also from Winnipeg.
I'm also from Winnipeg. I can't feel my hands right now. No, all my scenes were inside except for one, but it was fake snow. And I was like, what is happening? It's really snowing. Yeah, so I lucked out. But I'm from Winnipeg originally, so I know about that arthritis.
For all four of you, I'm always curious about memorable moments from filming that don't involve cold. So is there a day or two you'll always remember? Besides a stunt over a car.
Right. Pass. I can't give it away. Like the one that I really remember is it would give away a really big part of the ending.
Can you talk around it?
I was really dirty. Past that, it's a dead giveaway.
Got it?
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
I mean, underwater stuff you'd think would be very difficult, but it was quite fun to film. I love being in a tank, even when you have a wig on and you're dealing with gravity plus a wig. Kind of difficult story, but somehow we made it work. But
So mine has dirt, hers has water.
yeah.
Yours has indoors.
Actually, no, this one is my outdoor scene, actually.
Oh, really?
This is when Bella and I are walking into school, and I just don't think I'll ever forget. We weren't mic'd, but I don't think I will ever forget what we were talking about.
What are you talking about?
I can't say that here.
Come on.
There's no
But
clues.
no, it was
Say
very
you
funny.
just
It was the
brought it
first time we
up.
met, and it was like, I'm like, what? Okay, we're just supposed to talk like we've known each other forever, and I'm just meeting Bella, and we're just. Another thing that I'll never forget is in that basketball sequence, Bella's talking about how she does all of her own stunts. She took a massive hit from a big boy, and she fell, and I was like,
I skidded across
She-
the whole basketball court like a comedy film.
and everyone's just like,
Mm-hmm.
and then she's like, gets up, she's like, I'm good, let's go. I'm like, okay, that's her. So yeah, she was out. I'll never forget Bella Thorne falling on him.
No, I literally, okay, imagine me, all right, and I'm walking across screen and I can only stare at the camera while I'm walking across a literal basketball game with real basketball players that are like super into what they're doing. And I'm walking and I can't dare look at anything else because then it breaks character, right? She's seeing the rim and she's so distracted by the rim that she doesn't even realize that she's literally going through this basketball court. And there was one take where the ball touches my nose. It flies right past my face, touches my nose, and I'm like, whew. And I was like, oh, cut. I'm sorry. I have to call cut. I just like, my face just like, it's like, oh, and like, we cannot use that, clearly. And then we do it again, and then all of a sudden, I'm just on the floor. And I'm not even on the floor, I'm sliding so far across the floor, and this big boy, yes, he took me down. I was done for it. It was really scary for, I think, for every extra just watching.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, I don't know if she's getting up after this one. And somehow we kept shooting. It's pretty cool.
Kept going.
Yeah.
We almost lost you a few times. Didn't you also take a big spill when you were doing the ice skating, Stevie?
Yes, I
That was
almost
really
broke my
scary.
ribs. That was so fun.
Bella is a trooper.
I pushed to do my own stunts, and then when they're like, should you go to the hospital, I'm always wondering to myself, like, Bella, you said you wanted to do it. Now you might go to the hospital. What were you thinking?
I'm just wondering, in the basketball scene, did Scott dial that final one?
She got up pretty quick.
It was like, yeah, it was really like, oh, okay, she's died. So I don't know. I would have felt bad, I think, if he called 911 and then they would have been called for a fake emergency and then it would have been an awkward situation and that would have been fine.
But they would have got to meet Bella Thorne.
They've met me a few times.
Oh!
They're fine.
For the actors, talk a little bit about, everyone likes to work a little bit differently on set. For each of you, do you like music? Do you like it being silent? Like, how do you sort of prep yourself when you're about to do a scene?
I like to plug in my music in my ears so that I don't do anything. I just go off by myself and that's it.
I'm like trying to talk to Richard. He's
Constantly.
You know what I mean? Like, a lot of actors, everyone works differently.
Yeah, there's a million ways to get there. That's mine. I just like to be alone in a corner.
And you guys?
It's hard for me because I like to work with the actor and get there, but Richard's off in a corner.
Before we get on the stage together.
I don't know. I have a pretty. I'd like to say that my emotion is like piano keys. You know, you don't know which version you're gonna get of me. You just don't know. And you press the right key, and you're gonna get tears for sure. And I like to think with my acting, when I read a script, I can feel it. It's choking me from the inside out. It's like immediate. It's in my throat. It's in my bones, and it's easy with me in that sense, but I like to get in it, in the actual scene, in the wardrobe and costume and makeup helps me really get into a character in a completely different way than when I'm just researching and pulling photos from Tumblr and thinking what this character looks and feels like. And the scene itself, really, that's when I'm like, first take is like, woo, and second take, it's I'm in it full throttle. And so I got lucky with Richard in a sense. I kept asking him to come in and rehearse with me sometimes, just to go over some of our dialogue, because some of it has a lot of meaning behind the words, and for our characters that don't know each other but yet have this connection, but yet we've just met each other. It was really nice that Richard was always down to just come and talk about the scene, and not even just necessarily rehearse and actually go through it, but really talk about what we're doing and what we're trying to say by the time that we call cut in this scene.
I agree with Bella. I think hair and makeup and wardrobe are like the final, just like, okay, I have to justify every single thing that's going on now. You know, everything that you wear is like, why did I put this on in the morning? Why did I do my makeup like this? And with these characters in particular, I think, going back to what I said earlier, it's just like Bella and I would talk before action, and then we would continue, and then just naturally it would happen, and then cut, and we would just keep talking. It was just like, you know, we just kept it very alive. Yeah.
I was gonna, some people, you kind of touched on this already, but some people love the Clint Eastwood method of like shooting the rehearsal, take or two, and moving on. And some people love the David Fincher method of like 50 takes or 99 takes. For each of you guys, how do you typically like to work?
Definitely option A. I always feel like, and directors always like to say to me too, like every film I've worked on, I do 3 to 4, 5 max takes of my coverage, and we have it in 2. Something about it, I don't know if I spend so long thinking about it, or I'm just such an emotional fucking person that it doesn't take me so long when they call action to get there, because it's just like thriving to come out of me already. I don't know what it is, but every director that I've worked with, and I can feel it within myself, it's like, I also have this weird method of acting where I don't know what I'm going to say in 5 minutes from now. That doesn't make any sense to me. So why would I already have planned what I'm going to say if I don't know what it is? Because I have no idea what is in store. And so this method of like completely memorization and being off book in this sense is also a little bit weird to me, because when I'm completely off book, it doesn't feel like boom, it's this new thought that's in my mind. No, it feels like this thought that I've thought 1,000 times before, and that's not how it should feel for me. So I try to go for the most method in that sense of, I worked with Jennifer Jason Leigh, and she said, I'm not gonna get mad at Bella because she's not making me angry in this scene. And our director was like, but you gotta get angry with her. I want you to like freak your shit. And she's like, she's not making me angry. Have her make me angry then. And he's like, Bella, you need to talk shit, bro. Like, you need to go in to Jennifer Jason Leigh. And I'm like, what? This Oscar winner? Like, what? You want me to like talk shit to her? What do you mean? But then I realized in that moment that there was nothing that was gonna be as real as me talking shit and then her genuinely slamming the table in such a funk of realism of like, I'm done hearing you say this to me, and I've never heard you say it before, and it's making me feel disgusting, so I'm so angry. And that realism of actually having it really happen in that moment, I can completely understand as an actor is how you'd want that every single time, because
that really is your most natural reaction is the first time it happens.
I think I'd also go with option A with just a few takes. I like the pressure of it kind of just being like, you know, you only get a couple takes, and that's going to keep you more engaged, I find. So I'd go option A as well.
Sure.
I feel like I'm never fully like, yeah, that was perfect. You know, I'm always kind of like, if the director's happy, you know, he knows what he wants, she knows what she wants. I don't know what I'm doing. In a way, you know, I'm like, I'm never fully happy. And maybe it's because I try to be very, very present. I agree. I don't want to ever know exactly what I'm saying and run it 1,000 times, because I can't pull realness out of that. But, you know, once the director's happy, I'm happy.
I'm basically out of time, but I'm going to force my way into just real quick some fun questions. I promise they're harmless. It's get to know your get to know your cast member, get to know your writer.
Sure.
For the 3 actors, what TV show would you love to guest star on? And for Jason, what TV show would you love to guest write?
Channel 0.
Peaky Blinders.
New Girl?
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Nice.
Do you guys have a favorite sci-fi or fantasy film?
The Gifted, the First Strangers.
Sci-fi or fan? Come back. I think we would go with this.
Sci-fi.
Take it.
Empire Strikes Back.
Can't go wrong with that.
Solid.
I'm gonna say that too.
Well, you gave me fantasy as well as an option, correct?
Yeah, so-
Oh, then Lord of the Rings. I count all 3 as one.
I don't blame you.
Thank you.
We're gonna go through this real quick because I don't want everyone to get super mad at me. What film scared you as a kid?
The Grudge.
The original screen.
Stuart Little. I ran out of the theater. Shrek 2 also ran out. I don't
The
know.
therapist bills are absurd on this one.
Being really honest.
Poltergeist.
Nice.
Do you guys collect anything?
I like really miniature things or really enlarged things. Anything in the middle is like, get it out of my sight.
I used to collect Warhammer for a time. I was a Lord of the Rings Warhammer guy. Don't anymore, but that was awesome.
I used to collect stickers, and now I collect jewelry.
Okay.
Comics.
Do you own any movie or TV show props?
I have a Babadook in my bathroom. I own a movie dinosaur and also a unicorn in my house. Yeah.
I have, obviously, the One Ring, but like a really well done one.
Sure. Does the inscription light up in fire?
I've never tried, but I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna try that.
I don't think so.
Movie member, I wrote an incredibly well-received film called Pan, and I kept the map of Neverland that Peter finds in the Jolly Roger, which is pretty cool.
That's
Cool.
awesome.
Oh, I have a mug. I have a mug that I used in a scene once. And I was like, I love this mug. And they let me take it.
Did they let you take it or did you borrow it? Right, exactly.
There you go.
They let me take it.
There's so many more, but I'm out of time. What TV show have you watched all the way through more than once?
Friday Night Lights.
Sons of Anarchy.
Friends?
Sure.
All the way through more than once?
Yep.
None. That's why I love movies. Movies for me have a different rewatchability factor, and I love TV, but it's a different experience for me. I can go back and rewatch the original Superman or Empire Strikes Back or Raiders again and again and again. I don't have necessarily the same experience with TV, which is probably why I focus more on film.
I had a million others, but this is my last question, and it's for each of you. And since we're basically out of time, I guess be a little brief, because otherwise he's going to kill me. But I'm always curious what got you into wanting to be part of the entertainment industry and be an actor or being a screenwriter? Was there something that you saw as a kid or something that you remember that it clicked in you? You're like, oh my God, I want to do that.
Visiting my dad on set. He was the first assistant director when I was growing up, and he did a TV show called Andromeda. And I visited that set when I was about 8 years old. And it wasn't a craft or anything like that. I remember seeing people on set having so much fun, and there was this atmosphere about it that I couldn't kind of get out of my head. So then I tried to do it, and it was the only thing in my life that terrified me to fail at. So I figured that probably was a good reason to stay doing it.
Well, growing up watching Disney Channel, watching that one. Watching Disney Channel, I was like, oh, this looks fun. I could totally do this, I think. And I was a dancer, so I like to perform, and so I thought, yeah, I'll try it.
Watching superhero and sci-fi movies with my dad, who's sitting over there, he would find a way to show me movies I probably shouldn't have been seeing at a very young age. He would edit them. We had a dual-deck VHS player, and so he'd find a way to edit out the parts of like Terminator that I couldn't see when I was 5. So I'd see like a 20-minute version of that film, which really left some major logic questions. But it definitely made me fall in love with movies and want to do what I do now. This is thorough.
I just can't imagine the first time you saw like Terminator, the non-edited version, and what must have gone through your head.
To this day, the greatest day of my life.
Do you remember what it was?
My goodness. I'm not sure. I was born into modeling at 6 weeks old, and then I grew up doing commercials, and I always really liked commercials, and I always thought like maybe I could do that on that big screen, but I'm dyslexic and my first language is Spanish, so I had to drop Spanish to learn English, to then learn how to read, and then stop school at 3rd grade, and it was so much during the younger years. I don't know that I ever really saw something. My brother Remy, he booked this show, Four Kings, and we thought it was a commercial at the time, like a really big commercial. And it was actually a pilot for a show with Seth Green. And it was a live audience, and Remy is the one that kind of told me, like, why not? Who in Miami is ever gonna know that you failed if you have? Like, why not? Just try it. I mean, come on. And then I learned how to read from cold reading scripts, and so I kind of got my education a little bit from acting.
On that note, I'm just going to say congratulations on the movie, sincerely. And thank you for doing the Q&A, and have a fantastic night.
Thank you.